back to Voltron, defender of the universe.
Welcome, Voltron fans. This is Marc Morell, your host for Let's Voltron, the official Voltron podcast. And we're going to be talking about VoltCon 2020 in this podcast. We got back, and it's a wonderful time to be a Voltron fan. So I have to bring on my co-host, Greg Tyler. Welcome, Greg.
Hey, Mark. Hello, fellow Voltron fans and Let's Voltron listeners and viewers. Still getting used to that. Welcome back to Let's Voltron as we do a recap of VoltCon 2020.
Yes, this is exciting. I came back from VoltCon, and I've got my VoltCon program here. So this is the official program from VoltCon 2020. Okay. I also have my Shake-Ups EP. Okay, because they've got new songs this year.
Okay, awesome.
All right, and it includes the theme song, I'll Meet You at VoltCon. And then, of course, I have my VIP badge. And I also wanted to show a couple of other things that I got at VoltCon. These are some of the keys that were made. All right, you see on the one side it says VoltCon. And then you see Legendary Defender Voltron.
Very cool.
And then you have Classic Voltron.
Okay.
And then still the VoltCon on the back. And then here's the VoltCon key.
That is slick. I like them.
So those are very cool. And then I also wanted to show a couple of pictures that I got from Crizzletron. So there's this one that has all the 5 lion heads. Okay.
That's neat.
And then BRB, Forming Voltron.
Like it.
So there we go. That's another official one that came from Crizzletron. So Crizzletron is spelled C-R-I-Z-L-Tron.
Okay.
And we had a great time. Kim and I both, drove out. It took over 10 hours. 10 to 11.
That would do it. For those who didn't already know, I was not at VoltCon this year due to a schedule conflict, but I was there last year, loved it, and I'm looking forward to going in 2021. So,
great.
Yes, our drive was a lot shorter last year. It was only about 2 hours for us. But my goodness. So how anything eventful happened during the drive?
No, nothing at all.
Okay.
We listened to a lot of the podcast on the way out, and then on the way back, we listened to a lot of music. Okay. So yeah, that was pretty cool. Not too bad as far as weather goes or anything like that. So we were happy about that. And I just wanted to give a rundown of stuff that happened at VoltCon, and I'm going to have to get my glasses out to read this part.
Okay.
But a little bit of the schedule that they had for Saturday and Sunday. Okay.
All right.
All right. So starting off at 10 a.m. on Saturday in the Castle of Lions main bridge, which was the main room for all the panels, I started off with the Voltron 101.
Right. So it's an updated version of what we did last year?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes. And then at 11 a.m., VoltCon opening ceremonies happened, and that was Kevin and Patrick. And then Robotech, the next phase, was at 11:30 a.m. with Kevin McKeever.
Oh, very cool. I remember meeting Kevin back in 2016 at New York Comic Con. He's a great guy.
Right. And then at 12:30 p.m. was an interview with Bob Koplar that I had. That we're actually gonna play it in its entirety on this program today.
Okay, awesome.
And then at 2 p.m. was Rojak Studios' Voltron video game with Anthony Hahn.
Oh wow! You have to tell me about that.
Yes, I would love to have Anthony Hahn on the program because I would love it. I would love to have a podcast where we just go over the history of Voltron video games.
Sure, that'd be great.
Because that's very much what he went through in his presentation, in addition to showing off his own game that he's making through Rojak Studios.
Nice.
And then at 3 p.m. was Breaking into the Anime Industry, and that was with Kevin McKeever.
Oh, cool.
And then at 4 p.m. was Meet the Musicians. So they had the house band, the Shake Ups.
My wife and my daughter were there for their Saturday night show last year, and it was a great time.
Oh yeah, they put on another great show, and this time they had the official VoltCon theme song. So that was awesome.
Well, great.
And I always enjoy their last song, "Video Killed the Radio Star." So I always like it when they finish off with that. So at 4:30 p.m. was the Art of Cosplay, and that was with Marika Levine and Eric Stocker.
Oh, I would love to have seen
cosplays.
that. I loved their costumes last year. I would love to have seen that panel.
And for the cosplay contest, which took place at 5:30, they were the judges, in addition to Luisana Rodriguez, who was on our podcast.
Right, right.
So they had the 3 judges, and hopefully next year they'll have whoever won this year's contest as a judge next year.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
Then at 6:15, I did a little meet and greet with Voltron fans in the Atrium, and we just had a roundtable discussion of all things Voltron.
Okay.
There was a few people that showed up, and we just talked about anything and everything.
Nice.
That was fun. Well, they had the pizza and everything that came out. They did that last year. They did that this year.
Mm-hmm.
And at 8 o'clock, they played a game of Garfle, Warfle, Snick.
Nice.
So, and then, of course, that was followed by the drawing and announcement of the special mission winner, which was something you could do in the Space Mall, which was where all the vendors were.
Okay.
So at 8:15 was the Shake Ups concert.
Mm-hmm.
So the Shake Ups live in concert, and they started off with the convention theme song, "I'll Meet You at VoltCon," which was awesome.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
And I remember Patrick saying that was the first time they had ever done that live anywhere. So that was awesome.
Oh, wow. Yeah, with everything going
great,
on.
Even though they hadn't done it before. That was awesome.
Very cool.
And then at 9:45, they did the Rise of Voltron screening.
Oh, that's
which
fun.
was the first 3 episodes of Voltron Legendary Defender.
Awesome. Love it.
Which was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It was good to see that again. With all of that, I have to say the first day was just amazing. Everybody was in great spirits. Everybody was social distancing. Everybody was wearing masks. We were all, very just happy to see each other.
Yeah.
We hadn't seen anybody from the Voltron fan groups in, a year.
Yeah, and a lot of us hadn't seen any fan group people in several months with all the stuff going on these days. So yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Must have been a fun reunion.
Oh, it was great. It was just great. And everybody was in good spirits. I mean, everybody was just, happy to be out and about,
Yeah. Yes. I remember those days.
So just so you know, from my perspective, when I wasn't in one of the panels that I was doing, I was mostly hanging out just in the Space Mall because I did have my own little thing back here, the backdrop here.
They put the tables in the vendor room this time?
Yeah, all the tables were in the vendor room this time.
Okay, that makes sense with all that, with have them spacing out the seating in the main area, right? Right.
In the first year, they had some of our tables in with the main panel room.
Right.
And it kind of was a distraction. You didn't feel like you could talk to one of the people at those tables while a panel was going on.
Yes.
Right.
I remember an awkward time where I was nerdily snapping photos of a script from Fleet of Doom that Franklin Kofod had brought during a panel. And it was a little awkward, but anyway, yeah.
Yeah. So, this way we could have as many conversations as we wanted to have with anybody in the Space Mall.
Okay. Nice.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the cool things also was that the Space Mall still had a great many vendors there. So I'd like to go through the vendor list so we can pay homage to them. Okay. One of the Space Mall exhibitors was VoltCoin, and that's what these things were.
Nice.
Okay, and that was Voltron Michael. Dynamic Sketch Studio.
Okay.
Zabadas Network.
Mm-hmm.
Comic Rec. Rojak Studios. So he actually had some of the consoles there. He had a Robotech game, a Transformers game, and his game from Legendary Defender that he was doing.
Oh, neat.
And then Heidi Black Illustration,
Mm-hmm.
Shay the Space Lesbian,
Uh-huh.
Rebel Links Art,
Okay.
Catherine Clark, author,
Okay.
The Shakeups, The Voltron Store,
Awesome.
Genova Silver, Comic Carnival, Crizzletron,
Nice. I love that name.
VoltCon itself,
Right.
and then the media tables were Let's Voltron, the official Voltron podcast,
Mm-hmm.
Anime Crossroads, In Conjunction, and Geeking in Indiana.
Right. Cool.
So that was the Space Mall. And of course, this year also, again, they had the Explorer video screening room again with a full line of cartoons that you could watch, including Voltron Defender of the Universe, Tekkaman Blade, Mobile Suit Gundam, Codename Robotech, Machine Robo, Revenge of Kronos, Armored Fleet Die Rugger 15, Megazone 23, Godnar, Robotech The New Generation, Robotech 2 The Sentinels, Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Cool. Very cool.
So that was all there in the video screening room, and you could watch those. Also on Sunday, we had another full raft of schedule of panels. Starting at 10 a.m., What Do You Know, Mullet? That was Marika Levine bringing you a brief history of all Voltron characters.
Oh, how fun. I would like to have seen that.
Then at 10:30, there was the Voltron Trivia Contest, which was led by Kevin Clark and Tara Scully.
And she won the contest last year, right?
Right.
Okay.
So we didn't get a chance to see the names of all the people that won, but it was a group of people that were on the one side. So I'm not
Okay.
sure exactly the names of all the people that won, but it was a group of people.
Okay.
And then at 11 a.m., Forming Voltron the Cosplay, Eric Stocker took you behind the scenes for an in-depth look at the building of his epic cosplays.
That's really cool. My goodness. So did he do both? Did he cover both the Voltron that he had worn last year and the Robotech Veritech that he wore this year as well?
He covered the Voltron that he wore last year.
Okay.
And how it was made. And then he also covered those lions that were sitting in front of the stage where they each could, transform and then combine together to form Voltron.
Very nice. Okay. I like that.
So
that was not a costume, but it was.
No, it was not a costume,
yeah.
But he said it only took him like 3 to 4 months to make all those.
That is really amazing because they look so good.
And then, of course, Kevin Clark himself had made the Castle of Lions.
Yes, he showed me a few photos of that just before VoltCon, and that was really fun to see.
Yes, it was amazing. So then at 11:30 a.m. on Sunday was War Stories from the Cons with Kevin McKeever.
Okay. And what was War Stories? What was being covered there?
Oh, it was just talking about the good, the bad, and the funny of life touring around anime and media conventions, which he's done
fun.
a lot.
Yeah,
so
sure.
So who to be a better expert about that than Kevin McKeever?
Nice.
Yeah. And then at 12 noon was 5 Lines in 4 Colors, the talk about the history of Voltron Comics, which we're going to do on this program right here too.
Nice. Did they cover the third dimension? Okay. No,
Yes.
we never had Voltron 3D comics, sadly, but
that was one of the questions at the end. Have they done Voltron comics from each of the shows? Yeah, that was in Bob's interview.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So the truth of the matter is there have been, from Voltron Defender of the Universe, there's been comics made about that. There's been comics from Voltron Force, and there's been comics from Voltron Legendary Defender, but not really any comics that were from Voltron the Third Dimension.
Right. Now I would argue that many of the Voltron comics deviated enough from the original show that you could think of them as their own continuity. I mean, Devil's Due, for example. So
Yeah.
those don't even really tie into any specific show. But yeah, the third dimension kind of got left by the wayside with the comics. But I'm still looking forward to Todd McFarlane drawing Amalgamus. Just kidding.
Okay, so that was fun. Then we had at 1 p.m. the Robotech Free-for-All with Kevin McKeever again.
That's fun.
This was the 35th anniversary of Robotech. So,
oh yes, I do like me some Robotech. Here is an Alpha Veritech from the new generation.
Nice.
Yes. So yeah, that's great. I remember seeing his panel back at New York Comic Con 2016 as well. So
and Eric Stocker was dressed as a Veritech fighter.
Very nice. I saw some photos of that. That's really cool.
All right. Then at 2 o'clock was the Legendary Defenders Super Shopper Hour, where you could get in your last chance at getting some great deals from the Space Mall.
Okay.
And then at 3 p.m. was the auction and closing ceremonies.
Oh, cool.
So that's where we had the silent auction.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually did get some comics that I was just missing a few from my collection.
Okay.
I had brought my comic book collection with me so that I could show some of them off during the comics panel. And I have also had them on full display on the table in the Space Mall.
Okay. My comics are right down there, but you can't see them,
Yeah.
including the omnibus. I did preview some of what we're about to review here, the panels.
Yeah.
And yes, I did notice you mentioned you didn't have the omnibus. So
I don't have the omnibus.
So nya.
So thank you for that. Thank you for pointing that out. In the panel that we're about to talk about, which is the interview with Bob Koplar, we talk about a giveaway that Tiffany Alardi and World Events Productions and the Voltron store had at the end of that panel.
Mm-hmm.
And the giveaway was these VoltCon t-shirts from 2019.
Those are really nice. I'm wearing the 2020 shirt right now, and it is really, really cool.
Yeah.
I think I like red is a favorite color of mine. So I really love the 2020 logo, but the red color on that one is really sharp. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of Keith in that, and sometimes Lance.
Yes, depending on the show and the era.
So I showed you everything that we got from VoltCon, and I went over the full schedule of what we did. Just to let everybody know, I really enjoyed meeting everybody at VoltCon. Like, I'll meet you at VoltCon.
Yes.
So I really enjoyed meeting everybody and getting a chance to even get to know people even better this year than last year. And it was just a more relaxed atmosphere, I think, this year, just because even though it was in a new venue that was even bigger than the last one, it still felt, lived in as a convention. You know what I mean? It still felt like there was a warm, group of people that were coming together, to enjoy Voltron and Robotech this year. And there was a lot of people in costume, all kinds of cosplay happening. And I just thought everybody had a great attitude.
Good. I'm so glad. I wish I could have been there, but there's always 2021. I do look forward to seeing everybody there. I remember having a lot of fun in 2019, meeting so many people for the first time, and of course having a reunion with people I already knew, like yourself. So 2021, looking forward to it.
So we're going to do a couple of highlights here, and that is we're going to go over the interview with Bob Koplar from World Events Productions, the president of World Events Productions. Okay. And then we're going to go over the History of Voltron Comics panel that I did while I was there. And just so you know, the History of Voltron Comics panel, the video that was taken of me didn't include the screens that showed off the presentation. So we're going to show off the presentation as part of this.
That's good. That's good.
And it'll have me talking in the background.
No, honestly, it would be great to just watch you sit there for an hour and talk. but
I'm sure people would get bored of that. But
no.
But comics are so visual, you know.
Right.
And Greg did a great job putting together this presentation that was in comic book style. So I really appreciate you, Greg, for putting that together.
Well, as the least I could do. I really wanted to bring something to the show if I couldn't be there myself. So I'm very glad you presented that so well. So thank you.
So what we're going to do is we're going to show the whole panel of our interview with Bob Koplar, president of World Events Productions.
Okay, great.
World Events Productions, Bob Koplar!
Once you get to the 6 feet. Okay, then all right. Can everybody see that this is 6 feet?
Let the record show.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
Which is maybe a robot lion toenail.
All right, so thank you for joining us once again. I am Marc Morell, the host of Let's Voltron, the official Voltron podcast, and Bob lets me keep calling it that.
Because it's awesome, man. I love it. We're trying to emulate it with our little Facebook show.
Yeah, why don't we talk about that real quick? So, Bob, you guys have been doing the Voltron store live on Facebook.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to thank Kevin Clark and Patrick and Savannah O'Connor for all the work they put in putting this show together. Where are they in here? Mike, can you guys hear me in the mic? All right, I'll hold it.
There you go.
This is beautiful. I mean, the VoltCon moving up in the world. This is like the facility's impressive. The vendors are tremendous. So if you haven't gone and looked at all the booths, there's some really amazing Voltron stuff out there, including the official Voltron store, thanks to Tiffany and her magnificent son Dominic, who are here representing. And thanks to all of you guys for making this reality once again. You guys have traveled from all over the place to come check out VoltCon. So thank you very much. I gotta say, it's amazing to see. It's humbling. It's just awesome, and I can't thank you enough. I know you're not here for me, but you're here for Voltron, and that's what matters. And it's just amazing to see the life that the franchise has had after 36 years. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Did you ask me a question?
I wanted to make sure that we talk about the Voltron Store live show, but I'm also supposed to remind you at the end of this, there's going to be some kind of giveaway.
Yes, indeed. Tiffany brought some goodies. She's in the back of the room. Tiffany's very shy. So you asked about Voltron Store Live. This was actually Tiffany's idea, more or less. She might not remember it this way. Yeah, it was. You said, her idea was, why don't you and Bob go on Facebook and review an episode of Voltron Force? So we just kind of screen an episode, and Jeremy and I would talk about it and like what went into it and some of the stories behind the scenes. And we didn't know how to do that technically. Like we went back and forth and we're like, now how are we gonna do this? And so several weeks went by, we were trying to figure this out, and I said, let's just, why don't we just hop on Facebook and interview some people and channel our inner Marc Morell and Greg Tyler and try to be like the Voltron podcast. And that's what we've done, and I through some hand-wringing, forced Tiffany to be on the show as well. She doesn't like to be in front of the camera. You can see she's sitting in the back of the room. She's very shy. But she does a terrific job, and she organizes it week in and week out. She gets all the guests scheduled. She does she puts together a script. I never follow it, but she puts it in front of me, and she does all the work. So thank you, Tiffany. It's been a lot of fun. Like it was just kind of a lark that we started with, but yeah, it's a lot of fun doing those because we get to talk to people that I don't have a lot of interaction with, from day to day, whether it be former licensees or creative people that we've worked with over the years, like Franklin Kofod from the original. I didn't get to work with him creatively before my time, but we had Todd Garfield on.
Yeah, and
so
I wanted to mention Todd in particular. Todd Garfield was the story editor for Voltron Force, and he is one of the people that we have not had on the podcast. We've had a couple of times where Jeremy and Todd were going to be on the podcast together with us, and right at the last minute, couldn't get it. So we're still ready to get Todd Garfield, but you already got him on Voltron Store Live.
yeah, he's a tough get.
Yeah.
He's a tough. No, I'm sure he would love to come on, but yeah, he is busy. He's doing a lot of different series. From Voltron Force, he went on to do some stuff with DreamWorks. It was kind of ironic. I mentioned this on the show, but we worked with him on Voltron Force, and then through circumstance, we ended up with DreamWorks, and I was wondering, where's Todd now? And I was literally at DreamWorks talking with the Voltron team, and I run into Todd in the hallway, and he's working on Turbo Fast. So it's a small industry. I mean, you tend to kind of run into folks, and when you're good, when you're talented, you tend to get work. You tend to be really busy, and Todd is really busy today. He's a really good writer, and the writing on Voltron Force I think was phenomenal. And not only did we have Todd, but the guest writers that he brought on to do certain episodes, or it was like an all-star list of writers. So
Yeah, we did have Len Yulee, who was one of those guest writers.
yeah, right.
Yeah. So one thing that I wanted to share with you, and everybody can see the Voltron Store live show on Thursdays at 5 Eastern, 4 Central on Facebook Live, right?
Tune in, yeah, Facebook Live. It's it's on the Facebook. I think it's on the YouTube when we broadcast. We're in, we're everywhere that internet is, supposedly. This is a new world for me, Marc. I don't understand it. It's like having a podcast somewhat, I guess. But it's fun. You can tune in live and comment, and we always give away a prize to those who comment, or you can check it out after the fact. I wouldn't recommend watching all of them in one sitting. You might get bored to death, but if you have nothing else to do, tune in. We have fun. I have fun anyway. I don't know about Tiffany and Caitlin, but I have a good time.
So I wanted to let you know, over the last couple of years, recently I had a conversation with Optimus Prime.
Oh, really?
About Voltron. And I wanted to share this with you, because it leads into our next part here. So. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Can you see it, Bob?
I can see
You can watch my monitor. All right? Are you ready? All right. Here we go.
Voltron. You mean that animated cartoon show? You are aware that Voltron is a cartoon. And you are aware that I am real. No, I am not friends with the cartoon. But Bumblebee is a big fan of the program. He does enjoy watching his Netflix. I'm too busy poring over battle plans.
Where's your girlfriend?
Do you enjoy Voltron?
I do, very much.
Excellent. Ah, thank you. But wait, you just like Autobots, right?
Yes.
Excellent. Because Megatron's on the loose, destroying humans and Autobots alike. That's not something to be a fan of. And I don't care how much Starscream whines or complains, that is not entertaining, it is treason. Farewell, friend. Enjoy your Voltron.
What the heck was that? Gosh, that was pretty cool. Where was that?
That was at Universal Studios.
Oh, well,
So,
I didn't catch everything he was saying. Was he disparaging?
Okay.
What was he talking trash?
so at the beginning, I had asked him, are you friends with Voltron?
Yeah.
And what you didn't catch there was that Voltron is a cartoon, right?
Yeah, I heard that,
You're
yeah.
aware of, I'm not a cartoon, I'm real, right? And he said Bumblebee's a fan of the Netflix show, though, so.
Did he say that?
Yeah, he did say that. But the thing about this is, it made me think, okay, it made me think, why can't Transformers, Optimus Prime and Voltron be friends? And there's something missing. There's something really missing here. Voltron is only a cartoon.
Well, first of all, it would be awkward because Optimus Prime, while he might seem larger than life, is the size of a truck, whereas Voltron is like the size of a skyscraper.
Yeah.
And so Voltron would probably crush him accidentally. So.
Yeah, we've all had these comparisons.
Yeah.
We've had comparisons with the robots from Pacific Rim, right?
Yep.
With Mechagodzilla.
The Jaegers. Yep.
And we've tried to figure out who's bigger, right? We've had the height chart.
Yeah,
right?
people have done a lot of research into this, and I think it's inconclusive. I know the Jaegers would definitely be larger than Optimus Prime. Would they be larger than Voltron? I don't know. Probably not.
Right.
Probably not.
So we wanted to talk a little bit about the attempts over the years that you guys have made to get a live action movie going. So this dates all the way back to like July 2005.
Yeah. Yeah.
So back then it was, they had talked about the Justin Marc script for a Marc Gordon produced movie, right? That was through New Regency?
Yeah, Justin Marc's, so that was our first foray into Hollywood we started off with kind of you call them baby producers, and Transformers, say what you will, it sort of put the idea out there that there could be a Voltron film. And with the success of Transformers, Hollywood it's kind of a copycat industry, and they look at Voltron as kind of a similar franchise, and so the model is proven. And so with the success of Transformers, all of a sudden, Voltron is a hot commodity in Hollywood to do a feature film. So we wind up partnering with Marc Gordon, and through Marc, we had we commissioned a script by Justin Marks, who at the time hadn't written much. He's gone on to do a whole lot. Very talented writer. Actually, I think Justin came before Marc Gordon.
Yeah.
We had Justin Marks attached, and then Marc Gordon picked it up. Gritty take. It's kind of post-apocalyptic, more of an adult type vision for Voltron. Really cool script. So alongside Marc Gordon, we came really close to setting that up at New Regency, which is owned by Fox, and that deal was like literally an inch from the finish line, and this rights issue pops up out of nowhere, where we had just a slight disagreement, and that's been subsequently cleared up, but it was enough to delay the deal, and in retrospect, it's probably a good thing it happened, but we ended up not signing a deal with New Regency, and we moved on from there, and by that time, the Justin Marc script kind of became stale, and we kind of sort of took things back in the robot lion garage, so to speak, and just kind of hit the reset button on the feature film. And then, are you going to recount what happened?
So real quickly, I wanted to give you just there was lots of comments on those articles that came out back then, and one of them was, first of all, they shouldn't mess too much with the setting. That suggested New York City, Mexico City setting would rub the fans the wrong way, myself included. I hate Hollywood's current trend to reboot established franchises in a setting that totally ignores the source material. A good example of this thinking, creating a flop, would be Gem and the Holograms. They deviated so far from the source material it drove fans away. They need to tread very carefully on this project. So that was the thinking of some fans back then.
Gem was the inspiration for VoltCon, I believe.
Yeah. And the funny thing is if you talk to the people involved with the Gem and the Holograms movie, the original creator of Gem and the Holograms wasn't even included in all of that. So they just completely went way off the source material and didn't even include the people who were originally involved with it. But with Voltron, though, going from the Marc Gordon new Regency thing, in August of 2008, Relativity Media acquired the rights from 20th Century Fox, and they had a movie where Max Mikowski was slated to direct. Is that true?
This Max Mikowski thing came out of thin air, and he was never attached. We literally saw a press release that said Max Mikowski attached to Voltron, and we're like, who's Max Mikowski? So there was never Max Mikowski attached to Voltron, but somehow that got released. I have no idea where that came from. We did, but just to go back to your Gem comment, because it's a good point that the importance of sticking to the source material. I mean, the truth is, like, when you're adapting a cartoon, especially, a cartoon from the 80s, you want to make a film out of it, you're going to have to change it. You're going to have to modernize it, you're going to have to adapt it. There's certain things you have to do. There's a real art to knowing what the DNA is and what makes the show what it is. And a talented filmmaker will pick up on that and know, like, okay, here's what's in Voltron's DNA. And I always see that, like, the DreamWorks team did a magnificent job of maintaining Voltron's DNA while evolving it to make Legendary Defender. There's a lot of inconsistencies, but that's okay. You have to modernize it. It was 2016 when it came out, so like it's a different time than 1985. But I thought they spent a lot of time researching and figuring out what made Voltron. And there were even like trips to Japan involved where there was like research into what was inspiring anime at the time and why were these elements part of Voltron, and there was like hints of Shintoism behind like the 5 lions and the colors of the lions, and I mean pretty deep stuff. And through that journey, I think they acquired a deep and rich understanding of what Voltron was, and starting from that place, then went and created Legendary Defender. It just came out. So, Relativity?
Yeah. So we're moving on to Relativity Media.
So Relativity was with Chuck Rogan was the producer. He had just produced The Dark Knight. And we knew, like, after our experience with Marc, who was also a huge producer in Hollywood, but we needed a producer who was, as they say, an 800-pound gorilla who can just get stuff made. Yeah. And Chuck Rogan was one of those guys. And we optioned it with Relativity. It was a 2-year option, and I think most of you probably know the story with Relativity, but it was went up in flames, basically. Relativity is no longer around. But where I'm going to guess you're going to segue into from Relativity is the DreamWorks / Universal.
Right. So in November of 2016, David Hayter was penned to write the movie for Universal, and Tom Engelman was the producer. So I actually had a conversation with David Hayter Emerald City Comic Con a couple years ago. And he had already finished all of his work on the Voltron script and everything, and then he told me basically it's not happening. So trying to figure out, what had happened to that one at the end of the run with DreamWorks' Legendary Defender.
Yeah, so DreamWorks, the way we wound up partnering with DreamWorks is somewhat through happenstance, but when we did Voltron Force, we contracted with a company called Classic Media to do our international distribution. Classic Media was, in 2013, I believe, was acquired by DreamWorks. And after acquiring Classic Media, they kind of dug into, because Classic Media had certain rights to a whole number of franchises. And Voltron was one of them, and their creative team said, oh, Voltron, this is what we want to make a show of. And they didn't have the rights to do a show. So they came to us and said, we want to do a show with Voltron, which we were pretty happy about. But their stipulation was, if we're going to do a TV show, we need to have the movie rights too. So we did basically two different deals that kind of ran concurrently. We did an animation deal, we did a feature film deal, and obviously the story with the animated series. Legendary Defender came about, and the feature film part of the deal has since expired. While it was set up at DreamWorks, their kind of shot at making a feature film was the David Hayter script. David Hayter, incredibly talented screenwriter. I mean, he's got a ton of credits. He's a great writer. I was really excited when they got it. I will say this. You know what I mentioned about the animated series and how much energy and effort they put into learning the franchise and researching and understanding what makes Voltron that they did on the animated side. They did not do that on the feature side. And the way development was shepherded was just, in my opinion, misguided. And it was, whereas they had a whole team of Voltron fans on the animation side, on the feature film side, it was just kind of an executive who was trying to wrap his mind around what Voltron is. And so giving David Hayter the direction of where he thinks a Voltron film should be and what the story should be about was just, in my opinion, was misguided. And the script ended up, the script was done at the DreamWorks side, and then as you know, DreamWorks was acquired by Universal, and then the idea was that Universal would pick up the script, and Universal actually passed on it. So then, since then, their option on the feature film has expired.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, looking to the future then, for the possibility of anything live action with Voltron, would you be looking more towards a live action series now that we've seen more what live action series can do, or would you still be looking at a live action movie?
Yeah, so last time I was here, we were kind of in the midst of going live action series versus a film. We weren't quite sure which direction we wanted to go. I think there were pros and cons, both directions. And I think we were somewhat jaded that we'd been through this journey of 15 years of going from one studio to the next and seeing options come and go without a film getting made. So there's a certain amount of frustration there. So in that respect, live action series seemed like a pretty cool alternative. So we're looking in both directions. We've since sort of determined a direction. This is very recently, and I there's not too much I can say about it except the die has been cast, and I will say we've learned a lot through. They call the term is development hell, and Kevin Keever knows all about this. You know, with Hollywood, it's like everything has to line up. You know, you have to get the writer, you got to get the right filmmaker, schedules need to line up, and at the end of the day, the head of a studio has to say, you know, I'm going to make a big bet on this film because, you know, most of the major studios, the film that the size and scope of what Voltron would be, they'll do 1 or 2 of those a year. Mm-hmm. And they have to say, this is what we're going to bet on this year. And, you know, it's going to happen for Voltron. I think the thing we've learned is there's as many ways to put together a film as you can think of. But our strategy had been, and I think a common strategy, is go find a producer who's made a whole lot of films. And typically these producers will already have deals set up with studios to where they'll have like an output deal with a certain studio. So you get this producer excited about the project, you pitch the project to that studio. If that studio doesn't take it, then you go shop it to the rest of Hollywood and hope it gets picked up in another studio. We're doing things a little bit different this time. We're finding the creative. Let me just say this: we are working with somebody, with an individual who is incredibly successful in Hollywood, and you will know his work. And he happens to be a massive, massive Voltron fan. And he is excited as can be to get cracking on this. He's currently wrapping up another project. Mm-hmm. But his excitement and enthusiasm over the property is just like through the roof. I've already had several calls with him where he just goes on and on about his experience, and probably like a lot of people in this room growing up watching Voltron and, you know, growing up, playing with the toys when he was a kid. He lived and breathed the franchise. He understands the franchise, and he's excited to get cracked. So, like, frankly, Mark, we've been at this for a long time. I've never been more encouraged, excited, and confident about where we are today on the live action side. And I don't have a name to share with you out of respect to him and our partners. It's Hollywood protocol, it's all BS, and I hate it, but it's really out of respect to him that we'll probably do some kind of a joint announcement, but things are starting to move, and we're really excited where it's at. So, yeah.
Okay, well that's good to hear, that's encouraging. I wanted to give it a chance for people in the audience to ask some questions too. So, does anybody have a question for Bob, President of World Events Productions?
Pure, anyone? Maybe some stuff to give away. Do people have to ask a question? Go ahead. Yeah.
So, as far as toys go, you guys already have a relationship with Super 7. Do you know or think there possibly might be plans for like with the reaction line to get some of the pilots and some of the characters? Because, as far as we only have some of the characters from the original vintage line and then the adult line, and obviously the Legendary Defender, unfortunately got canceled after we got, 2 or so of the 3 of the pilots. So anyway, I think the reaction line would be perfect, line to go with the figures.
Yeah, I agree. We talked to them actually on the show about that, and I think that was one of the questions. And I don't think they have any plans right now on doing pilots, but we'll certainly talk to them about that and say, I think there sure is a demand for it. There hasn't been a lot of pilot figures made, all the mech that's come out. The pilots are kind of the missing piece. So yeah, I think it's a great idea. We'll be sure to mention that to our friends at Super 7. The question in the back.
How many different Voltron franchises are there? I know there's at least 4 right now.
How many franchises?
Yes,
It's like different series?
yes.
Yeah, so like back in the 80s, there were 2 different series. There was Lion Force Voltron and Vehicle Force Voltron, although our company kind of spliced together footage from both to make both shows. So there's a little bit of crossover, but the vehicle one, with the 15 different vehicles and the robot with the cone head, that's the Vehicle Force Voltron, and then Lion Force Voltron, obviously, you've got all 5 little lions up front here. So we had the 80s show, and then we had the 1998 Voltron the Third Dimension, and then we had Voltron Force in 2011, and then Legendary Defender in 2016,
So technically 5.
Technically 5, and all the subsequent series have been based on the Lion Force, but, I think we need to get a vehicle in there.
Yeah, would there ever be a chance for a vehicle?
I'd love to. I mean, it's the movie, I think is safe to say, is going to be a Lion Force-based movie, but, I think doing subsequent animation for vehicles, long overdue.
Right.
So, there a follow-up back there?
If there is the vehicle for it gets one, would there ever be crossovers of the Lion Voltron and your vehicle Voltron?
Yeah, there was a crossover called Fleet of Doom back in 1985. So they actually did appear in the same movie at one point. It was like an animated, like a feature-length animation. But yeah, more team-ups potentially in the future. It'd be very cool.
You have a raft of comics that you can pull from. Would you ever pull comics as source material for any future Voltron projects?
Yeah, for like storylines. Yeah, think of maybe the Robotech crossover.
Yeah.
Can we do that, Kev? Can you get permission from Sony for us to do that, please?
Call him right now.
Just let me know. Call them now.
Come on.
Tiff, do we have prizes for our questions? Or how are we doing our prizes, Tiff?
Everybody gets something when they leave.
Oh, everybody gets a prize.
Yeah.
We're all, yeah, in the front.
Actually, the perfect timing, because I know that DreamWorks has partnered with, appropriately, Lion Force Comics to do a series of Voltron the Legendary Defender comics. Do you know if there are any plans to do any of the other Voltron series in comic format?
Well, we've had, like Viz Media did Voltron Force in the comics, and we've had a number of, like the Dynamite comics are mostly based on the 80s series. So we've had comics based on pretty much all the series before, and we'll probably have more to come out at some point. So, but I think the Lion Forge Legendary Defender, I think that's come to an end.
I think so.
Yeah. Great company though. They're actually based in St. Louis, so they're just down the street from us.
Oh, nice.
Good guys. Yeah.
Sarah, did you have a question?
Yeah, I know you can't talk much about the live action, but your preference, would you rather see a movie be made or a live action show? That's just your personal opinion.
Well, assuming the movie industry is still around in a couple of years, when Voltron would come out, I think that's always been the dream, right? To be on the big screen. And the thing about going that direction is you could always do like a series on the heels of that. So I think the ideal for me would be both, but you start off with feature film.
Sort of the same way they did with Avengers and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right.
So going back into history a little bit, do you know how the Sprite commercials came about? The hip-hop artists in Unity united like Voltron.
Oh, the Sprite. Yeah, that was, So that was before I was with the company, but that was really cool. Sprite just, they wanted to do something to tie in like hip hop and animation. They just approached us about doing a commercial, and there's been a few campaigns throughout the years that have featured Voltron. The Sprite one was one of them. MetLife had that Super Bowl commercial with Voltron, and in the Honda days, with the Holiday had Voltron. They got our original voice cast to do like the voice of Voltron. So yeah, it's fun. We enjoy seeing kind of the nostalgic commercials that have weaved in Voltron. Yeah. How about Red Lion here?
Can you give any vague clues to when the live action will be released?
No, it's a great question. It's 2023. You have to work backwards. Unfortunately, these things take time. We have the right guy in place, I'm convinced, and that's the biggest thing. But then, the script's got to be written, all the pre-production work has to be written, everything lines up perfectly. We wouldn't go to production probably for another year. Production would take a good year, and then you have post-production. So, you're talking 2023, which for you is like an eternity, I know, but for old folks like me, 3 years goes by pretty quickly. So, yeah, we're here before you know it.
You're working your way through a pandemic too.
Yeah, that really has slowed down. The whole, like Kevin mentioned earlier, all of Hollywood was basically shut down.
Yeah.
But they're finding ways to get things going again, and it's opening back up, and life will return to normal, hopefully on the sooner side. Pitch.
So, for animation side, would you guys ever consider or look into doing a crossover between different Voltron franchises, like say, classic 80s Voltron meets Legendary Defender and Voltron Force, or anything like that, sort of into the Spider-Verse style?
Yeah, Into the Spider-Verse, I like that you brought that up, because that was a really cool way. It was just a great example of how you can have two different takes living in the same kind of sandbox. Because you can watch Into the Spider-Verse, and then you can watch, Far From Home, and it's all Spider-Man, but it's very different. Mm-hmm. And that's a great example of how you can have, different takes on it, living in different mediums at the same time.
We saw that with The Flash too.
Right. Yeah. A lot of franchises have done that very successfully, and we'd love to do something like that with Voltron. Will 80s Voltron team up with Legendary Defender? I don't know. I think they're pretty. I think it's more likely you'd see kind of a new version of our main characters, and who knows? You might see the vehicle team again team up with the Lion Force team. The only limit is your imagination, right? So
if you have the vehicle to do something, you would have that happen in either an episode or a bunch of episodes. You could make it if you have something that's currently out there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's there's a lot to pull from. That's what's great about Voltron. There's a lot of great mythology to pull from. A lot of places we can pull and refresh it and present it in a whole new way. So.
Do you have any discussions with Bandai to do a Legendary Defender edition of their figures?
Not that I'm aware of. They recently did a Soul of Chokogen transformable Voltron. I know Bandai makes awesome stuff. So they made a really cool toy recently. I don't know if they're going to do any more Legendary Defender stuff. That's DreamWorks licenses that stuff out, and there's none that I'm aware of that's in the works. But it could be down the line.
Yeah, like Kyle said, I'm a toy guy, and one of the pitfalls, problems Voltron has always had is Wave 1. It's always been good, but there's never been a scaled Robies for any of the 12-inch Voltrons, and I would love to see in the future if in Wave 1 a Robies could be included, so we have something to take photos with, for kids to play with. I think it would help a lot with the marketing if a whole wave was put out with just one of each thing, and really include that scaled Robies. And I don't know how much World Events Productions would have say over that, but when the toys come out, how much say your company have, and what happens with that? I think as toy collectors, we'd like to see something that we could, we could put on a shelf or have the kids play with that's the full line.
Yeah, first of all, I've heard that comment a lot. It's like you need something for Voltron to beat up on, and there's not really a full-scale Robies that's the size of the transformable 16-inch or whatever Voltron. Again, the problem is there's a ton of Robies every episode. So which one do you make? There's not like an iconic. I guess there's a few iconic ones that you could make. Whose decision would it be? It depends on what it's based off of. So if you wanted, so DreamWorks would have to license a Robies that was seen in Legendary Defender, and we talk about the live action. That's all still to be worked out, but what would likely happen is whatever studio releases the film would handle the merchandising for that, so whatever studio does the live action would be in charge of the toy, but that's a great point, and
how long does your toy contract right now go to?
Which one? There's actually a few of them.
Playmates, let's start with them.
Well, I don't know.
Okay.
But there's not like a master toy license. So back in the day, we had a master toy license with Mattel. So Mattel just sucked up every category and said if there's going to be Voltron toys, it's going to be by Mattel. And we did that deal around the time we did Voltron Force.
Okay.
It's done a little differently now. It's like you want to kind of narrowly grant the licenses, and so Playmates had the right to do mass market toys, because if you're going to do toys for the mass market, you can't have two different toy companies competing to make a transformable robot that's going to be in Target and Walmart and all that.
Right. They just had an exclusive at Walmart that just got released, the box set.
Yeah. When you're doing collector toys, it's easier to call licensing. What's typically done right now is a one-off, and the toy company will approach us and say, we want to do this toy, and it's like, okay, you can go do that toy. And you can make that toy as long as you want. Usually it's a couple of years where you can manufacture it for, say, a year, and then another year of sell-off, but it's typically done on per SKU or per product basis rather than just full-on doing categories. You'll see the category given away typically when, like I mentioned, like Legendary Defender, you're going to do this mass market project and all needs to tie together. But the collector's market's a lot more fun because you can just, a toy company will come and say, oh, we want to do, like you said, like a Keith figure, and then it's like, okay, go do Keith, or all 5 or whatever, and you can just kind of one-off license.
Nice.
So, yeah, but yeah, to answer your question, basically, there's not like a master toy license right now.
Okay. Any other questions? Yeah.
Any update on season 7 and 8 DVD for Legendary Defender?
I'm looking at Tiff here. I don't think there's any up. Yeah, we've gotten a lot of people requesting that, and we've been asking and pushing DreamWorks to do that, and they don't have any plans in the works yet. So, but there has been a lot of demand for it, so hopefully at some point they'll get that out. Yeah, Nancy.
Will V3D ever be released on DVD?
Probably not. Did we ever release that on the? I think it was like, well, that was before the DVD days. Yeah, we had it on VHS. I don't know. Maybe we'll do a poll to see if people, if enough people want it, we'll release it. That's for sure. I'm not trying to hide it. Is that a question in the back?
I have a question about maybe the gaming side of things. Like, I know there was like a VR game that came out, and
Yeah, that VR game was awesome. We went out and bought a PlayStation.
Just for that, right?
For our office, so that we could play that in our office. And we had a lot of fun with it. What we found out is like it's like a special edition PlayStation with VR. And not a lot of people have that. So, the game wasn't as widely adopted as it would have been if it was just like a normal PlayStation game. But that's a huge category. It's for every entertainment property nowadays. Like, gaming has gone from being kind of an afterthought, like just one category. We'll have backpacks and video games and toothbrushes. It's now a main part of your franchise. I mean, it's become so big and so popular that Voltron, does need like a proper console game, and that's really on the wish list. And so maybe, around the time that the feature film comes out, we'll do a big interactive push. But we've had some casual games come out over the years. We've had a number of them, but but that's how fans engage now with properties, and so people spend a lot of time playing video games, and we need a proper Voltron one.
Yeah. So, Tiffany, how are we going to arrange this? Are we going to give it out?
I'm going to stand outside just to
Okay.
keep us distanced, and if you guys want to come outside, I'll give you your free gift. But let's not get like
All right.
too close.
Because we're at time now, so we're going to have to do that. But I want to thank Bob for being here for everybody.
Thanks so much, everybody. Thank you for being here, and thanks for your support of Voltron over the years. You guys have kept this thing alive, and where the franchise is today and where it's going is all thanks to you, and we'd be nowhere without you. So thanks again.
Yeah, thank you, everyone, and don't forget to get your thing at the door on the way out.
Thanks, Marc.
So what did you think of our interview with Bob Koplar?
Very cool. We've both had the privilege of speaking with him at different venues in the past, and he and Jeremy did a really good off-the-cuff panel back in 2019 that I remember enjoying a lot. And I like that he's kind of a no-nonsense guy. You know what I mean? I mean, he likes the brand, he appreciates the fans, and just kind of tells it like it is. And
Right.
This was another one of those great experiences. So I enjoyed it.
So do you think there's any hope that we have that there's going to be any kind of live action thing happening within
There's
the
always
next
hope.
few years?
I will say that I tend to be one of those people who believes it when I see it on a screen.
Yeah.
Because so much can happen between talking with people and actually making the movie. Hope springs eternal, and I would love to see that happen and it be a springboard for other media. I tend to prefer animated television productions myself, but if a live action movie can help make that happen, and of course the live action movie might itself be really cool, I'm all for it. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think what he was talking about was true, that you can have both. You can have both the live action movie and a live action TV series. And I think he's right that you should probably start with the movie. And if the movie does really well, of course, there could be sequels. And then that would really help to foster a TV series.
Yeah.
And I think, having a franchise moniker on Voltron for live action would help merchandising. It would help everything. I think, there could be unlimited possibilities for what you could do with that after that.
Yeah. So, I hope it happens. They're very complicated and very expensive things. So that involve many people who are in swim lanes that are way outside of mine.
But Bob really sounded encouraged by whoever that person is that's in his corner right now, that's a huge Voltron fan and that can possibly get movies made. That type of person is somebody that he's been hoping for, because he really enjoyed the way that when DreamWorks took over for Voltron for the license, and they wanted to make a TV show, and they wanted to start from scratch basically, and they started asking all kinds of questions about the history of Voltron. Why the 5 lions? Was there any significance to the colors, to the elements, to everything? And when they asked questions, they also asked questions to the fans as well. And so all of that in getting together before they even developed anything, before they even put a story together, before they even started writing on a page, all of that stuff in getting ready for Voltron Legendary Defender. And he's mentioned that when they done movie deals and stuff like that, he never got that same thing from any of the producers that wanted to make a movie. So he's hoping that same thing will happen again, where they'll really get into the DNA of Voltron and really truly understand what Voltron is all about, before they start putting together a story, before they start putting together a cast. It's really got to come out the way that most fans would expect a Voltron to come out.
Yeah. So, I'm hopeful that something comes to fruition and that it kicks all kinds of Roby's butt and box office butt.
Yeah, and maybe someday we'll get that Robeast that's the same size as the Voltron toy.
Yes.
Because that was another thing they said in Bob's interviews.
Yeah. I really struggle with that myself, because yes, as a collector of Voltron merch, you can see a bunch of the swag back here.
Yeah.
This is only a small fraction of what's in here.
Right.
I would love to see a Voltron-sized Roby's figurine as well, but I totally empathize with Bob saying, well, which one would you pick? I mean, as awesome as most of the designs have been, there are so many of them that they all sort of blur together a little bit after a while. Unless you have a show like Legendary Defender that only had a handful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
if you put together the Roby's catalog that we have in the Voltron book, Voltron from Days of Long Ago, a 30th anniversary celebration.
Right.
If you talk about that amount of Roby's from all the shows, you're talking close to 100, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Possibly more, because that book did not have the third dimension Roby's in it. And of course, the Legendary Defender beasts that have come out since then. So yeah. So
I'm really looking forward to anything that has to do with a Voltron live action, and maybe someday there will be an announcement about it. But we'll keep you posted on that, of course, here at Let's Voltron, the official Voltron podcast.
Yeah, keep your red and green lion teeth crossed. Maybe it'll happen.
The other thing that we talked about in the interview with Bob was the Voltron live show that they're doing on Thursdays. That's Thursdays at 5 Eastern, 4 Central. And they're going to continue doing that. And that's cool. That's encouraging as well, because if they've got that going on, that means that they really want to keep the fans interested. They want to keep the fans, intrigued as to what might be coming down the pike for Voltron.
Yeah, if we're not careful, of course, they got a long way to go, but they might catch up to us in episode count. But they have a long way to go before that happens.
Yeah, if they can keep doing it once a week like they're doing, yeah. The other thing, obviously, is that recently we had the Walmart exclusive for the Playmates set for the classic '84 Voltron, all in one box. the
Yeah,
electronic version that has over 60 phrases and sounds.
Mm-hmm.
So they had that recently. That seemed to be a huge success.
Yeah, I know it got a lot of buzz on social media when news about a possible pre-order came out, and then when it finally did, a lot of people were jumping on it. And what I love, and this is something that I think the collectors who really keep their ear to the ground a lot probably don't catch on, is that not everybody knows that that stuff is out there. You know, those toys were sold individually at mass retail in the 2017, 2018 timeframe,
Right.
but I saw many people who had been unaware that those things had ever been released. So, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And those are some of the people they're trying to reach with these items. And so I'm glad that not only people who want the box set, you know, the combined box set can get it. People who just would like to, you know, have another set to, you know, play with or whatever. And then people who just hadn't seen it at all.
Right.
It's great that that's available for everybody.
We still get comments on that video that you made from the original Voltron Legendary Defender electronic, you know, toy that came from Playmates Toys. That video it's approaching 2 million views now.
Goodness, that's wild.
So we still get people that are asking, "Hey, where is this? Where can you get it?"
Nice. Yeah, the one, of course, at Walmart is the Voltron 84, the
Exactly.
80s version, done by Playmates, which I think I held those things up to the camera the last time we recorded and transformed them in front of the camera. But I really, really do love that toy. It's big. It looks great. It's hefty. And it's not something that I'm afraid I'm going to chip paint or chrome off of every time I breathe on it. So, yeah, very cool.
Awesome. So what else? I think there was an announcement recently from the Voltron store. Do you want to talk about that?
Yes. So on the day that we've recorded this, that we are recording this, the Voltron store Facebook page posted a contest. So November 4th, they posted, help us design a new Lion Force and Vehicle Force Team, not Force, t-shirt. Send a PDF or JPEG of your design to Voltron@Voltron.com on November 18th by 11:59 p.m. Central. 2 lucky winners will receive their art on a Voltron store item, 10% royalty on all sales featuring their artwork, which is really awesome, a Voltron t-shirt of your own design, and a Voltron prize pack, including a $100 Voltron store gift card and a personal appearance on the Voltron store live.
Yes.
There's a link that you can click on that post for full details and rules. I'm sure it's filled with lots of legal mumbo, you know, all the stuff that we'd rather not read here because it would take years. But yeah, that's a really cool idea.
Right.
And I love that the vehicle guys are finally getting some love. It's been a long time. I think the last shirt that they had was a red one that had Japanese writing on it from Die Rugger all over it. I still have mine, but unfortunately I outgrew it laterally years ago, and it's not looking too good anyway. It's well worn. So yeah, I look forward to seeing what people come up with.
Right. So in following that as well, make sure you get your designs in before November 18th for the Voltron store.
Yep.
I also put out a poll myself on Twitter just to see what people's interests were. We had put out a Christmas design last year for a Voltron shirt.
Okay.
And it had like a Christmas tree, and the balls were all the different colors of Voltron and everything. And each of the parts of the Christmas tree were the sword, right?
Oh, right, I remember now. Right.
So I thought this year I'd ask the people who follow our Twitter account what would you like to see this year. So I asked in the poll, would you like to see something Christmas themed? Would you like to see a new Let's Voltron design?
Okay.
Would you like to see us just doing a curation of other Voltron, you know, designs? Because you can do that from our TeePublic store. We can curate other people's Voltron designs.
Okay.
And then the last thing was all of the above.
Love it. Okay.
And I can tell you right now, the results of the poll are that more than 50% said we'd like to see all of the above.
Cool.
So it looks like we'll have to put together a Let's Voltron design and a Christmas design, and I'll curate some more designs from other Voltron designers.
Wow. Cool. That should be fun.
Yep. So
T-shirts
look forward to
galore.
that, because there's a big sale season coming up on our TeePublic store.
Okay.
And you can get T-shirts for as low as $13, and all kinds of deals on, like pillows and mugs and stickers and posters and all kinds of good stuff, sweaters, sweatshirts, all that kind of things. We still have the Voltron Christmas sweaters too, those designs.
Right.
So all those are out on our TeePublic store, and you can check it out. Let's Voltron.
Nice.
So we're also going to do a little segment here where we talk about the history of Voltron Comics.
And this was from Sunday at VoltCon, right?
Yes, this was Sunday at noon.
Okay.
And like I said, I had a whole table full of all the comics that I had, and I picked up a couple more in the silent auction.
Nice.
I was able to win those. And I was very happy because there's only a couple more I need, and one of those is the omnibus that you were talking about. So
now I have to ask, do you collect all the cover variants and all that stuff?
I've gotten as many as I can. I don't have all of them.
Yeah. So as I was doing research to prep for the panel, I had to collect a whole ton of those things in short order because I had many gaps in the collection. And so I have not collected. I was happy to have one of each issue regardless of the cover, just to have the complete stories.
Right.
But yeah, so you probably have a more complete collection than I do, but hey.
So here's the cool thing is basically out of every collection except for the original one from Modern Comics, we've had either writers or artists from each of those. So we've had Dan Jolly. We've had Brandon Thomas. We've had Colin Bunn and Blackie Shepherd. We've had N. Stephen Harris. We've had Jacob Shabbat. We've had Brian Smith. We've had Mitch Iverson and Tim Hedrick. So all of these people. Oh,
Bill Spengler.
Of course, in the Robotech Voltron crossover, we had Tommy Yoon, Elmer DeMasso, and Bill Spengler.
Right.
So, I mean, when I think about all of the things that we've covered for Voltron, we've had people from the original cast and some of the original producers and directors and everything. We've had, of course, a lot of people from Voltron Legendary Defender. And then we've had a few people from Voltron the Third Dimension and Voltron Force.
Right.
But I think of all the things that we've covered the most thoroughly with guests, I think is the Voltron Comics.
Yeah, of all the media, certainly. Yeah. And,
so,
and I would say a part of that is because it takes fewer people to make a comic than it does to make a TV show. But yeah,
sure.
I mean, but there were a lot of deep dives with people who had worked on those over the years, and those are so much fun to listen to and get some insight into what they were thinking when they took their unique takes on the Voltron story. Neat stuff.
Right. So I want to show you this presentation now. Remember, the presentation was put together by Greg. So I was following his model, and
so if it sucks, it's my fault. If it's awesome, it's Marc's fault because he was presenting it.
But I think it's a pretty thorough coverage of everything that ever came out with Voltron Comics, including motion comics. So here we go.
Let's make it happen.
All right, welcome everybody to 5 Lines and 4 Colors, a history of Voltron Comics here at VoltCon 2020. I want to thank my co-host Greg Tyler for putting this presentation together for us. If it was him here with me, we would be talking a lot about the different comics, but I'm just going to take his presentation and run it through. So thank you for being patient with me. So here's the outline of Voltron Comics over the years. We're going to start with the Pre-Voltron Comics, and then go to Super Robot Wars W, the Modern Publishing Era, the Devil's Due Publishing Era, Dynamite, Viz Media, and Lion Forge Comics. So what happened in the Pre-Voltron era? This was back when it was still Go Lion and it was run by Toei Animation. There was actually a Japanese children's TV magazine called Terabiland. This was back in 1981 to 1984. There was a manga Go Lion, Dairugger, and Albagas that were published the same time as the anime was released. The Go Lion was illustrated by Tsukiyama Yoshiki, and the Dairugger illustrated by Suhara Yoshiaki. There were slight differences from the anime, like for instance, in the Go Lion version, everybody knows that Shirogane gets killed off. But in the anime version, Shirogane gets killed off by Hagar and her Beastman. In the anime version, in this one, in the manga version, Shirogane gets killed off by Sadek's Beastman, and it's after he's in the lion and they've formed Voltron for the last time with him. So it's a slight variation from what had happened in the anime. Then we move on to Super Robot Wars W. That was in 2007, and it was released at the same time as the Nintendo DS game that Tony was talking about during his history of Voltron video games yesterday. So there was a tie-in manga, there was a comedy-based manga for Go Lion, and it was part of the whole Super Robot Wars W, and it was the last Go Lion related manga licensed by Toei. So then we move on to when Voltron had actually appeared. Voltron appeared in '84. Modern Publishing put out 3 volumes or 3 issues of a Voltron comic back in 1985. The 3-issue comic book miniseries was standalone stories in each issue, like most of the TV episodes felt like when you were watching the TV episodes back in '84, '85. So each of these issues is just like an episode in its own right, and it really doesn't tie to each of the other issues. The first issue was written by Henry Vogel, and it's basically using an alien mind control machine. Hagar and Lotor take control of Keith's mind and turn him against the Voltron Force. In issue number 2, also written by Henry Vogel, alone on patrol, Lance is attacked by the biggest robeast that he's ever seen. With Red Lion damaged, the team can't form Voltron. And then in issue 3, written by Marc Lehrer, an alien ambassador asks the Voltron Force to defend his planet from Zarkon, but there's more to the ambassador than meets the eye. Sounds like a little Transformers thrown in there.
Yeah.
So after that modern initial 3-issue series, the next publisher to take the Voltron license for comics was Devil's Due Publishing in 2003 to 2008. Devil's Due Publishing carried 2 titles, the first one called Voltron Defender of the Universe, and the second one was called Voltron: A Legend Forged, which was a mini-series. And the first one, Voltron Defender of the Universe, it was the first major reboot of the whole Voltron origin story. Arguably, Voltron: The Third Dimension is a sequel, a soft reboot. So the writers for this were Dan Jolly with Marie Kroll and Mark Waid. And it goes like this. Long ago, scientists and priests created Voltron to battle the evil Drool Empire. But a sorceress's magic broke Voltron into 5 parts. 1,200 years later, Voltron is needed once more. Colonel Hawkins recruits a team of misfits to locate the robot and use it against the new Drool menace. The recruits meet Princess Allura and begin to learn about the legend of Voltron. Specifically, Allura in this one is seems like a much tougher version of Allura than compared to the regular series. So this was something that really brought a difference to what people had originally seen in Voltron Defender of the Universe on TV. Another key thing that happened in this series is the Earthling pilots get full names. So Keith was known as Keith Akira Kogane, Lance was Lance Charles McLean, Pidge was Daryl Pidge Stoker, Hunk was Tsuyoshi Hunk Garrett, Sven was Sven Holgerson, and it was just Princess Allura. So that was something that actually didn't hold canon for all the future versions of Voltron, because as you know, even in Voltron Legendary Defender, Pidge's last name was Holt. So that kind of changed things up. So it didn't necessarily hold on to the canon all the way through future versions of Voltron, because that can be interpreted differently. Although the fans have held on to these names for quite a long time, just so you know. In Voltron Defender of the Universe Volume 1, which was actually published by Image Comics through DDP, by the way, in issues 0 through 5 misfit explorers are sent to Aris to find legendary robot Voltron. On Aris, they're attacked by the Drool Empire. Now Keith, Lance, Sven, Hunk, Pidge, and Princess Allura must learn the secrets of Voltron before it's too late. In Volume 2, also known as Paradise Lost, issues 1 through 5, the Drools have been driven from Aris, but a new threat could tear the Voltron force apart from the inside. Now the team must face longtime enemies, once thought allies, and the newly constructed vehicle Voltron. Also Volume 2, known as Warpath, issues 6 through 12. Now here's a key thing about issue number 12. Number 12 was only available in the omnibus. It didn't come out as a single issue. So in issues 6 through 12, a new threat arises, the telepathic Queen Merla. The Voltron force is betrayed by one of its own, and Allura grapples with her approaching destiny. The second series released by Devil's Due Publishing was called Voltron, A Legend Forged, and the writer was Josh Blaylock. In issues number 1 through 5, Voltron's origin is revealed. Over 12 centuries ago, the galaxy's best minds secretly bridged magic and science to create a Voltron, their only hope of salvation from the Drool Empire. This is that story, an epic miniseries that spans space and time. So, in addition to the single copies that you could get, there were also collections that were published. These trade paperbacks. So, you would have the single issue, and then you would have trade paperbacks that were versions of all three of them. So I have some trade paperbacks from over the years I'm going to show. I do not have the Voltron Omnibus. That's a big, thick book, but I don't have that for me right now. But you have the Voltron Defender of the Universe Revelations, which was the Volume 1 series. Volume Series 2 was Paradise Lost. And then the Voltron Omnibus, the hardcover, included reprinting of all volumes 1 and 2 and the previously unpublished volume 2, number 12. And then it also included Voltron, A Legend Forged, had its own trade paperback as well.
I know that you've talked with Dan Jolly a few times. Did he ever talk about where the names came from?
I think he did. I think he did. I want to go back a second here. I think Kogane came from just the Japanese, and so did Tsuyoshi for Hunk's first name. I'm not exactly sure where he got McLean, Stoker, Garrett. I think it might have been people in his family that he knew or something like that. Friends that he knew.
I'd have to check my archives, but I think some of those were suggested by Voltron fans on the Voltron chat board that used to be hosted on Voltron.com.
Okay. I'd have to go back and listen to our interview with Dan to figure out if he mentioned that or not. But that's a great question. So there was also available the motion comics from Eagle One Media, and the first volume was adapted into Revelations, and then the second volume was Paradise Lost. So these are really cool motion comics you can get on DVD. But I really like the format and everything, and when I did talk to Dan Jolly about these, he didn't know about these originally, that they were even releasing these. So they did those without even talking to him, because they could do that separately. So that was the Devil's Due publishing series. And then we move on to the Dynamite Era from 2011 to 2016. And we have different titles in that one called Voltron, Voltron Year One, Voltron from the Ashes, and Robotech Voltron. So Voltron, you see a couple of these things here, right here. One of the cool things about the Voltron series is it included some really cool covers by Alex Ross, which is just a phenomenal artist. There were other covers done by other artists, but he was the standout in this. And the writer was Brandon Thomas, and I did have Brandon Thomas on the podcast, and we talked about both of his versions, which I'll get to here. So with issues 1 through 6 for Voltron, ultimate victory is close for the Voltron Force. King Zarkon's brutal regime has been pushed to the edges of the galaxy, but Zarkon knows something. A secret about Voltron over 100 years old that could change everything for the Galaxy Alliance. And then in issues 7 through 12, 10 months since the death of King Zarkon, Prince Lotor has returned with a promise to disarm his forces and make peace. Keith believes something is wrong, a suspicion proven correct when a Voltron double appears and lays waste to Earth's moon. How will Keith convince his friends that Lotor is responsible when Planet Doom itself is the evil Voltron's next target? So, one of the things that they introduced in that first series was that Zarkon was actually a human, and it totally changed the way people think about the whole Voltron idea, but it was an interesting twist. Another series that Brandon Thomas also wrote was called Year One, and in issues number 1 through 6 for Year One, for years, Voltron fans all over the world have wondered why this specific team of space explorers. How did they receive the important mission to bring back Voltron? Were they sent because their superiors hoped they would succeed, or because they knew they would fail? So one of the interesting things in Year One is Sven is actually the commander of the team, which was a really, really cool concept on that one too. The writer was Colin Bunn, the artist was Blackie Shepard, and we had them both on the podcast talking about the issues. In issues 1 through 6, over 200 years ago, Voltron Force fought its final battle against the Drool Empire. Since that devastating conflict, the robotic champion has never moved, but its legacy lives on. When an ancient enemy rises once more, a new team must be chosen to pilot the Defender of the Universe. So one of the cool things about this version is it happens 200 years in the future from the last battle that Voltron was ever in, and Voltron is just basically ruins. And there's a bunch of monks that take over the ruins, and for years and years and years, they are trying to build up a team that can take over as the Voltron Force when needed, if Voltron ever has to return. So they've been training teams to be the Voltron team, and there's up to like 5 different teams at one point. And of course the teams, some people are thinking, you know, we're never even going to get to do this in our lifetime. Why would we keep doing this? This is just a joke. And then there's other people that feel like it could happen at any minute. We need to be ready. So the cool twist on that is the number 1 team that goes in at the beginning kind of gets messed up. And the second team takes over. So that's really cool. So then we have the Robotech Voltron crossover comics. The writers were Tommy Yoon and Bill Spangler. And this is a really really cool set because it was the first time ever seeing a crossover with Voltron, and of course it was Robotech. And in issues number 1 through 5, 2 all-time great anime legends collide in one epic saga. The Lion Force faces a mysterious ancient adversary that could jeopardize the existence of Voltron itself. The repercussions threaten to reach across the fabric of time and space, all the way to Earth. How will Roy Fokker and Skold Squadron cope with such a new menace, especially with the Zentradi looming over Macross Island? What dark opportunities will Lotor, the would-be conqueror of planet Eris, pursue in a crisis like this? So the one thing about the Robotech Voltron series, we talked at length with Tommy Yoon and Elmer Damaso, the artist, and Bill Spangler. We had 3 episodes, I think it was our 37th through 39th episodes, and we went to a lot of detail on this series. And you'll know at the end of the trade paperback, there's 5 pages from our Let's Voltron interviews in here that I transcribed for Tommy Yoon. And the key thing that brought Voltron and Robotech together, they wanted to know what was going to be the link to get them together for a series like this. It was the Omega Comet. So if you ever saw the episode from Voltron Defender of the Universe, the Captive Comet, that's where it came from. So that's pretty cool. You can check that out, the trade paperback, and also our interviews on Let's Voltron. So these are a couple of the images from the comic. And of course, Dynamite had its share of collections and trade paperbacks. So the first Voltron volume, the reprinting of issues 1 through 6 was called The Sixth Pilot. The volume 2, which was reprinting numbers 7 through 12, was called 10 Lions. Voltron Year 1 had its own reprint from the entire miniseries. Voltron from the Ashes had a trade paperback as well, and of course the Robotech Voltron one that I just showed you. So we go to the Viz Media years here. They were from 2012 to 2014. And we had 2 titles. One was Voltron Force, a 6-trade paperback written by Brian Smith. And the second was Voltron from Days of Long Ago, a 30th anniversary celebration. I was also one of the writers on that. And the comic is an epilogue that's at the end of the book. Okay, and basically what happens is that thing that's at the end of the book wraps up what would have been season 2 for Voltron Force, the show. But let's get into these books first. Okay, so number 1 was called Shelter from the Storm, and this is the only comics that you'll ever see the cadets in. So this is Daniel, Larmina, and Vince from Voltron Force. They're sucked into a horrifying storm and their worst nightmares come true. In number 2, Tournament of Lions, the Voltron Force cadets are forced to enter a tournament to decide who should pilot the mighty robot. The games are on and the cadets must prove that they have what it takes. In number 3, Twin Trouble, Daniel shows off to his former classmates at the Galaxy Alliance Flight Academy, but 2 mysterious ships appear out of nowhere and put Daniel's flying to shame. Are these new pilots friends or foes? In number 4, Rise of the Beast King, that's this one. One ancient legend of Voltron tells of a 6th part of the mighty robot, a terrible warrior called the Beast King. The Beast King has awakened and is determined to rejoin his destructive spirit with the Voltron Lions. Number 5 was Dragon Dawn. On planet Doom, the eggs of the species of a dragon are just about to hatch, and Mayhax orders the Drool army to collect them and ship them off to planet Eris. Will the Dragon Dawn be too much for the Voltron Force? And then in number 6, True Colors, all the Voltron Force's enemies have joined with King Lotor for the ultimate battle of good versus evil. And this time, Lotor commands the Voltron Lions. Could this be the end of the Voltron Force? So Brian Smith wrote all of these issues. Jacob Shabbat was the artist on the 1st and the 6th issue, and there were some other artists that were involved with the other 3 issues. So getting back to this book, Voltron from Days of Long Ago, a 30th anniversary celebration. This book is a rare look at the history of the show and the pop culture phenomenon that followed, plus an in-depth look at the lore and legend of Voltron, Defender of the Universe, and it ends with the epilogue to the first season of Voltron Force, which is what would have happened in the 2nd season. So it was written by Brian Smith, who did most of the book. He covered basically all the fictional parts of Voltron in there. And then the non-fictional part, which was how Voltron was developed over the years, I wrote that part. And then Joshua Bernard wrote the part on the toys. So there's a whole section about Voltron toys in there as well. And then Jacob Shabbat was the artist on the comic at the end of this book. Okay? And of course, I've had all of the writers, all of those people have been on the podcast, and we've talked to all of them about that when it was coming out. So now we go into Voltron Legendary Defender, the Lion Forge Comics years. And these are some of the issues that you would have seen in those volumes. And then this is one of the trade paperbacks from that. But the title was Voltron Legendary Defender. It was based on the show. So there was even some slight connections to the show. In Voltron Legendary Defender Volume 1, written by Tim Hedrick and Mitch Iverson, issues number 1 through 5, when Team Voltron takes on a dangerous training mission in deep space, Karan is captured by an ancient enemy. It will take teamwork, smarts, and Voltron to save their friend's life. In Volume 2, now here's the funny thing, Volume 1 never got a name. Okay, when the trade paperbacks came out, Volume 1 was just titleless. And then when Volume 2 came out, it was called Pilgrimage, and when Volume 3 came out, it was called Absolution. But for some reason, they named the second 2 volumes for the trade paperbacks, but not the first. So issues number 1 through 5, Pilgrimage, the Paladins must escort a convoy of rescued settlers to their new home, crossing into increasingly dangerous territory, navigating amongst frightening predators and colossal beasts, and battling the evil Galra. And then in Volume 3, Absolution, which was written solely by Mitch Iverson this time, in issues number 1 through 5, on their quest to bring peace to the universe, Paladins plan to infiltrate a group of Galra imprisoned planets known as Sprawl. So all 3 of those were, like I said, built into collections as trade paperbacks. The first volume did not have a title. The second volume was called Pilgrimage, and the third volume was called Absolution. There were also motion comics made from that first volume, just the first volume. We were hoping that there would be motion comics for all 3 volumes, but it was probably hard enough for them to get the original voice actors together to play their characters in these motion comics, which was really cool. It really brought the show and the comics together. And these were available on DreamWorks TV's YouTube channel. I don't know if any of you, did anybody remember seeing that when it came out? Okay. Yeah, they were really well done. I'm sure they're probably still available on that YouTube channel. No, they're not available as a bound volume or a DVD or anything like that. No. Right. They were really well done. And the way that they did that first chapter of Voltron VR Chronicles is the same thing I wish they would have done with this motion comics. They were planning on 5 different chapters of the VR Chronicles, and I was hoping that they were going to finish all 3 volumes with this, but like I said, it's probably hard to get people together to complete that stuff, especially since this stuff was mostly just a value add. It wasn't really something they had released to make money off of it. It was just something they were doing to help promote the show. And I think once the show ended, they decided not to do anything else with it. So, the question is, do we have Voltron comics in the future we're going to be continuing to enjoy over the years, and what format will they be? So if you were to be somebody that was in charge of Voltron Comics from now on, what's the format that you would want?
I can tell you what the big companies are doing right now.
What's
A
that?
lot of them are leaving a digital code, so you're going to have a copy you buy, and it has, like you said, value add on the digital code, where you can go look it up and see extra panels or an extra thing that's going on with it, or have it, you can travel with your phone or your iPad, whatever.
Okay.
So if any company is going to pick these up, you're going to see a multimedia, but the hard comic book is slowly declining versus other media for it. You're going to still have panel art comics, but not necessarily in a comic book itself.
Okay. All right.
Oh, no, it's just that. It's funny that you bring this up because I actually asked about the continuation of Voltron Comics or possibly new Voltron Comics, and they can't say. So, usually, like, fingers crossed, that there are plans in the works. But
Yeah.
So, and it also depends on the publisher, whoever's putting the comics out. Like he said, Marvel has been doing this for years, where they release the physical issue and there's a little digital download code in the back, which is really cool. But DC has very recently cut themselves off with Diamond Publishing, so they are largely going with reduction in their actual physical copies. They're doing more of an online digital-only copy, and what they are planning to do is for the ones that are successful in the digital services that they offer, releasing physical trades.
Okay. Trade paperbacks.
I've been collecting comics for 20 years. I love my individual issues. I'm a single issue snob, so
Right there with her on that one.
Right.
But that is in decline.
Right. So,
You know how DC does their DC Online?
DC Universe?
Yeah, it would be neat if they had something like that for these.
All right, so are you saying it would be neat if they had it just for Voltron?
Sure, why not?
All right, because the DC Universe library is huge. And when you get to watch those on the DC Universe, either app or website, they have a whole engine around how you can view the comics. You either go from cell to cell, like in the pages, or you can go through full pages at a time. So they offer options on how you actually view them, and you can either play it or play it with a specific type of delay in between each one. So there's ways to do that, but it would be interesting to find out just how they're going to meld all of these things in the future, whether you have a TV show, a movie, whether you have comic books, all these types of visual media. Are they going to blend? Are they going to still keep them kind of separated? Yeah.
There's another way that comics are coming out, and it's web-only comics, but then they can be printed in bound volumes. For example, I follow Girl Genius online.
Okay.
And then every so often they'll put together a number of the issues and actually publish that physically. So, but it is a web comic primarily.
So also, do you think that the artistry behind the comics is going to change with how some, artists typically do things on 2D paper before that they convert them over to digital, or some of them just start out doing them as digital art? How do you think that's going to change for the artists?
Well, I've seen both of those in webcomics. For example, there's another webcomic that I follow, and he started by doing everything physically and then scanning it in and then posting it. Whereas he's slowly transitioned so that everything is digital from the beginning, so there's no physical art that's being created. But it's been transitioning because of tools, of artists' experience with using digital format as opposed to a physical format.
Yeah. So the typical thing in the past would have been that the artist, there would have been a sketch artist that did the first version of it, and they would ink it, and then a colorist would come in and color it, and then the letterer would come in and letter the words into the pages. So do we see that as being, one person's job to do all of that, or do we still see that as separate jobs?
I think when you had Pix, it's very sophisticated now, and they are definitely going to move away from the artists, and it's a whole new genre, a whole new field has opened up, and it started with Pixar, and it's just moving forward and evolving. It's eventually going to evolve to where comic books might be a rare thing that only gets produced for specific things. It won't be kind of like baseball cards.
Yeah.
Basically.
Okay. All right.
Todd McFarlane's Facebook page. Todd McFarlane.
Oh, Todd McFarlane. Okay.
On his website, he'll do sketches, but it's on a computer. You 2D sketch. It's really remarkable. 5 minutes to try your back and you're Spider-Man. And so what you're describing, I think you can still have that. Drawer, letter, color. You would just take that one file, give it, digitally, here, on such and such, do your lettering, make color map, color whatever.
Right.
So, because I think there's still beauty to the art.
Yeah.
Some gets lost in the reading, gorgeous thing. But I just think, I don't think there's something about the TV.
Right. Right. Do you still see it as a collaborative effort between the artist, the colorist, the letterers, the writer? Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
To touch on that, so DC has a title out right now called The Dreaming Waking Hours, and it's written by G. Willis-Wilson, art by Nick Robles, and I follow Nick Robles on Twitter, and he recently put something out. He is an incredible artist, really absolutely fantastic, and he's blown away. I can't think of the letter's name, I'm terrible, but absolutely blown away because so here's this person who's been doing comic art for years and years. He's one of the greatest in the industry, and says, I absolutely could not have done this at all. He could not have done the lettering himself at all. So it's definitely, lettering is still an art in and of itself. So I definitely see it, regardless of the medium they choose, still being a collaborative art.
Right.
I think the real bottom line is going to be who picks up the property.
Okay.
I mean, if it stays in DreamWorks, you're going to see the possibilities of more collaborations. Because if anything like, say, a DC would pick it up, you may only see it online. Just depends on what they want to do with the property. So we're in an era right now where it really depends on what company is in charge of the property, which direction it's going to go. Because there are so many media options.
Right. Right. So here's my home for Voltron and Voltron Comics. I would love to see a variety of options available to fans because there's fans from every era in Voltron. With all these different generations of Voltron fans, they all like different aspects about Voltron Comics. So I would love to see a Voltron motion comic again. I would love to see, some evolution of that as well to see how far they can go with motion comics. I would love to see, just the traditional, single issues, that get also released into trade paperbacks. But I also like the idea of the digital comics too, because with the trade paperbacks and the digital comics, you always got a little bit of something extra that you didn't get from the single issues. So I always thought that was nice that there was a value add there as well. But with motion comics, and with the web and with the internet and everything, I think there's a lot more opportunities for individual publishers, individual people to make their way. And they could actually use Voltron, and they could start it as something that's unlicensed, and then get it into something that could eventually be licensed. But I think that would be really cool. There's a lot of independent comic authors and comic artists out there that are doing some really great work. We just need to get it out into a lot of people's hands.
They're selfishly about digital and physical. It helps the package the physical in condition. You never have to open it and look at, you can read digital or wherever.
Right.
And keep your main copy that's protected case.
Right. And you can still get those signed by the writers and artists. Yeah. I mean, what are writers and artists going to sign if it's all digital, right? So what do you guys think about the comic book conventions and what's going to happen to them as a result of the evolution of not just what's happening with COVID, but what's happening with the comic industry in general? What do you think is going to happen with the comic book conventions?
I think they're just trying, the media is going to still be there in some form. So it's just going to go with what the media is at the time.
And
it's going to survive one way or the other.
And they have to diversify. That's really the only thing. You can't have just, I mean, Comic-Con isn't just comic books.
Right.
They've already been embracing the other aspects of fandom. And that's really the only way to do it. It's going to be possibly a smaller part of it, but I think there's always going to be a core.
Okay. I think there's a line from, believe it or not, Beauty and the Beast, when Belle is with Gaston and she's got her book, and he takes the book from her and he says, "How can you read this? There's no pictures." and I almost have to agree with him. There should be some words and pictures. I'm a fan of both.
Pictures doesn't have words.
Right. And I think sometimes the artists tell an even more emotional story than the writer can sometimes. The same way that animators can make things happen with the characters that a writer can't even do. So I really think that a lot of times the picture is sometimes more valuable than the words.
Well, and the comic books are Voltron's answer to what if. Because in all of the series that you went through, it takes a very different tack on the characters and their histories, their backstories, Voltron itself. So without having to, invest in a new animated series, even if it's mostly computer generated.
Right. Right. Does anybody have any questions about all the previous versions of Voltron Comics?
Does Albagus appear in more than just the one series?
The Pre-Voltron series?
It's one of the Devil's Due series.
Oh, I don't think it does. I don't think we've seen Albagus in any other series since then.
And of course, it was a throwaway panel.
Right.
Just
it wasn't
in a back room, and they see it in passing, and they're like, "Oh, that's a failed attempt."
Yeah, exactly. That's basically a Easter egg reference, and of course, there's never been any licensed Albagus. Any other questions there? All right. Well, I want to thank you guys for joining us for History of Voltron Comics.
So that's our history of Voltron Comics. How did I do? Did I do you justice?
Yeah, of course. You did the entire comic book industry justice, Mark. So what did you think of, was there anything you learned in going through the presentation that you didn't know before?
Oh, it's just, there's things that I learned in going through the presentation, and then also the whole thing with when we saw the history of Voltron video games as well. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize that there was a tie-in for the Super Robot Wars W through the Nintendo DS with an actual manga style, comic.
Yeah, that was news to me as I was researching it. I had seen little bits here and there on different Wikia sites about Terraby
yes.
The earlier material, but
the early material.
Yeah, but I had Super Robot Wars W was new to me. In fact, I didn't even know there was a game with that title until I was researching the comic books.
Right.
Because I haven't played video games regularly since the Atari 2600. Yes, that is true.
Yeah, well, in the presentation for the video game, we saw a little snippet of it where they actually used the music from Go Lion.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So it was pretty cool.
I would love to get my mitts on the Terraby Land manga in particular. I wouldn't begin to know how to search for it because I don't. It was buried in the magazine, and I don't know of any comprehensive guide to which issues had
Yeah.
which stories. And of course, even once you know that, you still got to hunt all that stuff down. And it was published in Japan nearly 40 years ago. So,
Yeah, I don't know if it's cataloged as well as Mad Magazine is.
What, me worry? Well, yeah, huh. But
Yeah,
yeah,
but-
that was news to me.
Yeah, so that was interesting. And then
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that happened when we started doing the Q&A at the end of the panel
Mhm.
is I didn't realize just how many people still love those single issues, you know,
Mhm.
and to this day, again, it's going to be really hard to get somebody to sign if it's only digital.
That's true.
So, you know, for artists and for writers, for them to go out and see the public about their comics, I think it's still necessary to have that single issue coming out on paper.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, you know, I'm sure over the years you've had to electronically sign a few documents like PDF files and junk like that, or
Right.
use a digital certificate on a sign-in badge or something to sign some kind of a document. But
Mhm.
it just isn't the same thing.
No, it's not the same.
Typing, thanks for reading, click to sign.
But I kind of do like the idea of having that multiple media type of environment, you know, where you have
Yeah.
a TV show, you have a comic, you have a motion comic, you have a digital comic, you have all these different types of things that go into that show. And maybe there's tie-ins from the TV show to the comics, you know, and maybe they're connected somehow.
Yeah,
You know, I kind of like the idea of having those kinds of things happen.
I like that idea, but it makes my brain a little bit confused. Because on all seriousness, I mean, I'm a technical geek and all that stuff, but there's a part of me that wants to just sit down and watch a TV episode and enjoy it, and then say, it's done, instead of, gee, oh, look at all these links that are popping up on the screen. Click here to read a comic. Click here to buy whatever. I don't know. I get a little. I think of RoboCop. You know, the original RoboCop.
Yeah.
Where Verhoeven had all those fake news programs. Would you like to see more? And a little dinky thing pops up on the screen. But maybe it wouldn't take that form to see comics evolve in some multimedia way. But I don't know. It might be really fun. I don't know.
Yeah. Did you see Ready Player One?
Ready Player One. I don't think I have. No.
Okay, well, in Ready Player One, the Oasis is the virtual environment that everybody goes to, and they play in it. They do all kinds of things in it.
Mhm.
One of the things that the company that was trying to take over the Oasis wanted to do was that they wanted to fill up the screen with as much advertising as they could.
Mhm.
And he said, at one point, you can fill up 80% of it before people start having, like, what do you call it when you get those flashes and everything?
What? Like an epileptic seizure or something?
Yeah,
or-
seizures. That's what he said.
Wow. Oh
he
my
said,
goodness.
yes. He said we can fill up this percentage of the screen before people start having seizures.
Oh my Lord. Wow.
That means that they actually did testing, and people actually had seizures because of what they put on the screen.
That's horrible.
Wow.
Horrible. So, you know, you watch a 24/7 news show, you know, pick your network, CNN, Fox News, CNBC, et cetera, BBC World News, whatever, you know, the screens just for those, even local news, they're so full of time and temperature and the news ticker down at the bottom and all these flashing news alert signs, and here's a stock ticker, and you know, it is kind of crazy even now.
They do that on sports programs too. They try to fill as much of the screen as they can with all kinds of stats.
Yeah.
You know, you've got stats on what's going on in that particular game. Then you've got at the bottom a ticker going across showing you what's going on in other games or stats for other players, because everybody wants to know their fantasy stats and all that kind of stuff, whether it's baseball or football or whatever. And yeah, most of the screen wants to get filled up with all this information, but you really just want to watch the game.
Yeah, I kind of wish you could, click or point and push it all aside and just enjoy, the main thing.
like you can do with all those annotations on YouTube. You can turn those off.
Right.
Yep. So I don't know what the future lies, with comic books and how they're going to be done digitally or motion comics or whatever. I just hope that it evolves in a way that people still get to write cool stories using some of our favorite characters, and it's visually stunning, and it's, whether there's sound or whether there's just, it's, reading it, I don't mind. So I really like those motion comics that they did with Voltron Legendary Defender with the volume 1. And I wish they had done it with the other volumes as well. The problem was that the TV show didn't last as long as the comics did.
Right. The show led the comics by quite a long time. So
exactly.
They were done with production pretty early on as the comics were still being made. So, right.
Exactly. So I really think that, had the show been spread out a little bit more, like say the 78 episodes could have been spread out over 5 years instead of 2.5. I think we would have been able to fit those other volumes in with the original voice actors. Yeah,
maybe. I don't know. I guess we'll never know. But I remember Tyler Labine, the last time we had the Voltron Legendary Defender cast on, said, "You will. I have a feeling you'll hear us again as Voltron
as these characters."
I don't know where that came from, but I would love to see that happen too. Who knows?
Gosh, I would love to see that.
Yeah.
Any minute now, I would love to see that.
Yeah, maybe Hunk could do a cooking show on Netflix, kind of like Nailed It. Have you seen that on Netflix?
I've never seen Nailed It.
Oh, it is so funny. It's so funny. I'm not a cooking show aficionado, but they basically have people who can barely cook at all, and they make desserts of different kinds. And they try to make them look and taste like something a professional chef had made. And they always look just hilarious. But Hunk would actually do a good job.
Yeah, he would do a great job.
Yeah. Who in Legendary Defender would be the worst cook?
The worst cook of the Paladins?
Or any of the characters, Paladins or otherwise.
Well, here's the thing. I would not want to watch a show where Karan was the chef, because he would go into tangents, and he would start talking about things that happened 10,000 years ago and everything like that. I don't know if I'd want to go there with Karan.
And didn't he also make that ancient Paladin lunch that none of the Paladins liked very early in the series?
Right. Right. That's right.
Yeah.
And if Pidge did it, I'm not sure I would understand what she's even saying.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't understand the words that she's using.
And what did she say about peanuts? She liked peanut butter but didn't like peanuts.
Right.
Yeah. So there wouldn't be any peanuts. So people with allergies wouldn't have to worry about it, at least.
And I don't know, maybe Keith or Shiro would be a good one.
Yeah, maybe. Just imagine all the mincing that Shiro could do with his cybernetic arm.
Who needs a Bayard, right?
That's right. Anyway.
So that's pretty much it as far as the VoltCon 2020 goes. I just wanted to thank everybody from VoltCon 2020. I'm going to go through the list of all the people that were involved with putting this together. And Kim and I did hang out in the end to try to help clean up everything.
Oh, awesome. Very cool.
So I would like to first thank the con chair, Kevin Clark.
Yeah, he's a great guy too.
The event coordinator, Patrick O'Connor. The mistress of ceremonies, Savannah O'Connor.
Right.
The graphic artist, Thomas Soltis.
Very cool.
The audiovisual technician, Ricky Lyle. The registration head, Liz Shun.
Cool.
Hospitality, Jeremy Hanna. Security, Danny Monahan. And the additional staff and volunteers, Ryan Howe.
Right.
Luisana Rodriguez, Kathy Drake, Kevin Nettles, and Elaine Grady.
Very nice.
So thank you to all those people who were involved with putting together VoltCon 2020. It was an amazing event. I'm really thankful to everyone that was involved with it, everyone who came, especially the VIPs. I really want to thank them too, because as Patrick and Kevin said on many occasions, we couldn't have done it without the VIPs this year.
Right.
That additional income really helped keep the con afloat.
Good.
And they did such a good job with the VIP. They had this VIP suite that was a separate room, you know, that you had to go to, and it always had food in it. And especially on that Friday night thing, that they did a special Friday night where all the guests were there. I was there, Kevin McKeever was there, you know, Marika was there, Eric was there, all the guests were there. And then also the room was stocked, like I said, with all kinds of food, especially on that Friday night. They had the desserts, and then they had drinks. And then if you even needed like a bottle of water at any time, you could just go there and get it.
Nice.
And then the other thing is the VIPs got a special bag that was a special con bag just for VIPs that had all kinds of nice trinkets in it. It had that Shake Ups EP. It had a gold key, a gold key that was specially made. It had a mug. It had I think there was a specially made coaster.
Okay.
And then a T-shirt and a couple other things. I don't remember. There was a poster. Yeah. Just a whole bunch of things that were in it. And that was a nice thing for VIPs as well. And then, of course, VIPs had special times that they could go to the Space Mall, you know, either ahead, I think it was ahead of other people on the days of the con.
Okay.
And then they had special seating in the panel area as well, the reserved seating.
Okay. Well, good deal.
Yeah. So it was cool. It was really cool. And like I said, the silent auction did very well. Last year, they had a charity for the cats. Remember that?
Yeah, right.
And this year, they didn't have a separate charity. So everything that came from the silent auction is going back into VoltCon 2021.
Okay. Well, good deal.
So, you know, that's a good thing too.
Okay. Well, that's great. Well, it sounds like it was a fun event. Wish I could have gone, but there's always VoltCon 2021, and I'm very glad to hear that they are planning one. So that'll be great.
It's fun for the whole family.
Yeah, and let's Voltron folks listening or watching us, please give some serious thought to checking out VoltCon 2021 if you haven't been to the prior conventions. It's a lot of fun.
Right.
It really is kind of a family reunion for Voltron fandom.
We'd love to see you there because, of course, as long as they keep on inviting us to come, we're going to keep coming.
Yep. Yep.
We've got plenty of things to talk about. Greg and I already have ideas for what we'd like to do for next year.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And, of course, it would always be nice if there was, announcements that are being made that affect Voltron, the whole franchise. So that would be nice, too.
That's right. So, yeah, be sure to tune into Let's Voltron in the meantime, and the Voltron Store Live on Facebook, which is now happening weekly.
That's right.
It's a good time to be a Voltron fan. The lion is not sleeping tonight.
So I'm sorry you couldn't make it with me this year, Greg, but definitely next year. Definitely next year.
Yep.
And we look forward to seeing you all next time on
Let's Voltron.
Run by the fans with love like